solutions. Float, yeah. Answering your floating questions every day, yeah. Solutions. Float, yeah. Isolation is the only way, yeah. Magnesium. Float, yeah. Weightlessness. Float, yeah. Soundproofing. Float, yeah. Slip resistance. Float, yeah. Hallucinating. Float, yeah. Specific gravity. Float, yeah. Post-flow T. Float, yeah. Carbon floors.
So yeah, we're back again.
Yeah, this is Ashkahn.
I am Graham.
And boom, we got a fresh one coming at you today. Just cooked it up. We got it all nice and prepped, and the spices have been applied. It's been marinating for a while. Just about to put the garnish on. I mean, it's really going to be a delicious episode today.
How do you budget your center's finances on a monthly basis?
Well, when you say it like that, it doesn't really... All right. Doesn't sound as delicious as I think I made it seem, but it's a good question.
It's
a good question.
I think it was the fault of the dish, you know?
Budget.
Yeah. So we totally budget.
Super carefully.
For everything.
Every penny is accounted for. I mean, here's the thing. You're running a small business. So, like, there's just certain aspects of running a small business.
It's a small business, too. Like, in the realm of small businesses, it's still a smaller one most of the time, yeah.
Yeah, physically small. You're only in so big of a space.
Well below 50 employees.
Yeah. You may be kind of short.
Diminutive, I think is.
It's, like, there's just certain things that have to do with, you know, lots of information like this, like your finances and stuff like that you kind of end up just internalizing. Like a lot of people who run float centers out there,
don't even keep books, yeah. They just kind of keep track of it all in their head.
Yeah, don't pay your taxes.
Develop sort of an emotional feeling about it.
I mean, obviously, like you're keeping books and things like that, but oftentimes when we're making budgetary decisions, we're not necessarily checking our books. You know, it's like when I need to decide if we're going to buy something that costs whatever $1,000. Like I don't jump to QuickBooks and be like, okay, well, let me look through my like profit and loss statement and see what makes sense and if we can afford this. Like you kind of just build a feeling for it, and you kind of like, okay, well, you know, there's one of the nice things about running a float center is there's a lot of consistency in expenses for a lot of the routine stuff. You know, your payroll is a huge expense, and that's only going to be that different from kind of week to week or whenever you run your payroll. So like you kind of know how much payroll is going to be, and you kind of know where you are in the payroll cycle, and you know, you kind of know you're going to have to buy salt next month, and that's going to be a certain amount of money, and you're always buying kind of your ongoing supplies.
Yeah, and the cost per float is relatively low. So even the difference between months where you run, 200 floats versus months where you run 800 floats is really not going to be that different in terms of your expenses.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Like with all sorts of small business things, I think at a certain point you have to just be like, is this where my time is best spent? Like, is it actually worthwhile to my business for me to be sitting down and like making a carefully planned budget for myself every month? Or maybe should I spend that time like trying to boost how many people are floating with me and be a little bit more loosey-goosey with my budgeting and trust my gut a little bit more about deciding what to purchase and what I can afford financially.
And another big part of this is we don't have huge amounts of receivables or
Right.
shipments that we have going out. We don't have net 90 days either that, customers are paying us with or that we're paying huge vendors with.
We don't have like an inventory. It's not like we have to buy a bunch of retail unless we have it in stock. We're not going to be able to sell it. Like, we're not like a department store where we have to keep track of all that stuff in such a more significant way.
Yeah. So the reason that a lot of businesses budget for things is because there's a lot of these intangibles that aren't money in your bank account that are going on. And with a float center, to be honest, I mean, your bank account is a pretty good representation of how your business is doing. Most of the transactions happen and you immediately have cash right there. So, I mean,
Right.
you can account for things like gift cards that are outstanding and different items like that, which you'll need to do in a financial sense. But for just figuring out, if you have enough money in order to do a certain improvement to your center or buy a certain thing or get a new couch or whatever it is, those are the kinds of decisions where you just sort of look over how you've been doing the last 4 months and you're like, oh, either I can afford this or I can't. And that's sort of it. It really it doesn't get too complicated. Like, again, the keeping the finances, keeping your books up to date. We could do a whole nother episode on what goes into that. But
maybe we will if you ask us.
If you're very nice,
that's how this works.
And you submit a form on our website, then we'll answer that. But yeah, for budgeting, again, kind of like Ashkahn said, because our business isn't so complicated, maybe you don't spend too much the time on that side of finances.
Yeah, don't go crazy, Just just keep it
cool.
real. Keep it real. Be cool. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like we've in 7 years, like very rarely have I mean, almost never have I looked at QuickBooks specifically, or like specifically our financial books that we use for sending in our accounts to make like a specific purchasing decision.
Okay, I was giving him a crazy look from across the room, like, you've never looked at our books?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Do we have that? I just assume someone's been doing that. But
Man.
no, I mean, yeah, we look at it more often when we're making bigger decisions, like should we give people raises, or should we
Yep.
change the structure of our managers, or should we offer health insurance? Like when we're talking about big ongoing expenses, that's when I'm like, okay, we should maybe sit down and like crunch some numbers, and that's the point that we'll actually do a little bit math, but for just purchasing something, even if it's a big purchase, oftentimes like your bank account really reflects reality. That's the thing, like Graham was saying. It's not like you have these huge chunks of money that are outstandingly due to you because you sent out an invoice and they have 30 days to pay it, or some huge chunk of money you're paying out to some sort of supplier or anything like that makes your bank account kind of deceiving. Like our bank accounts are very realistic indications of how much money we have and how much money we have to spend, as long as you just know that payroll is going to come up at some point.
And I mean, it's never bad to have either money in the bank for things going wrong. I mean, if there's one truism about float centers, it's that things will break, your tanks will go down, you will need to spend money on repairs unexpectedly. So, make sure you have a cushion, or failing that, just getting a line of credit with your bank, or something where, on the flip side, where if you didn't budget for something and now an emergency has come up and you need access to capital to do a repair or something, that you actually have that.
Yeah, emergency repairs or just kind of slowly building up a cushion for potentially having to do like a renovation project or something like that are really the main things to kind of keep in your mind.
Be sure to plan for all those things you didn't even know to plan for.
Yeah,
and you
that's
can't
our
go
best
wrong.
advice. Just, expect the unexpected.
All right, is that it?
That's it.
Okay,
Yeah.
So be cool.
Be
Keep
cool
it
out
real.
there.
Yeah. And, be sure to head down to floatanksolutions.com.
/podcast.
Yeah, check it out. See what,
It's nice.
yeah.
It's a nice little
See what you
spot.
think.
Yeah.
All right, bye, everyone.
Right.